Hello and welcome. Today we are diving into a paradox that is just maddening for so many high achievers. You know you're smart, you know you're capable, so why on earth is it so unbelievably hard to just get started on the work that you know really matters? Well, let's dig in and figure this out together.
And this is the core of it, right? It's this weird internal conflict. You've tackled tough problems before, you've hit impossible deadlines, but for some reason, this one thing, this important project, it just sits there. And that gap between knowing you have to do it and actually, doing it, it feels like a giant chasm. The key thing to realize here is that you're not lazy, you're paralyzed. So what is actually going on?
This quote from Osama Bajwa just nails it. For really bright people, procrastination almost never looks like sitting on the couch doing nothing. No, it's disguised as productivity. It's this whirlwind of activity, organizing your desktop, planning every single step, deep diving into research, that all feels like work, but really it's just a super sophisticated, very clever way your brain has come up with to avoid the actual task.
So, if we're going to solve this, we have to start by throwing out everything we thought we knew about procrastination. Honestly, most of the common wisdom is just flat out wrong. It's time to get to what's really happening on a psychological level. And this slide really lays out that huge misunderstanding. On the left, you've got the myth we tell ourselves, right? That we're lazy, we lack discipline, we're just bad at managing our time. But the reality, what the science shows, is that it has nothing to do with that. It's an emotional issue. It's your brain trying to protect you from what it sees as a genuine threat.
Yeah, according to researchers like Dr. Tim Peichel, this is the modern definition. You're not actually avoiding writing that report. What you're avoiding is the feeling the report brings up in you. Maybe it's a feeling of boredom, or anxiety, or a fear that you're just not going to be good enough. The task itself is just the trigger for that uncomfortable emotion.
And get this, there's a biological reason for this. When you even think about that stressful project, your amygdala, which is kind of like your brain's ancient primitive alarm system, can light up. It literally reacts like you're staring down a saber-toothed tiger. And its response is super simple. Run away, avoid the threat. And in that moment, it works. You feel a little bit of relief, which just reinforces the whole cycle.
Okay, now here is where things get really counterintuitive. You'd think being smarter would make you immune to this, but in a lot of cases, it actually makes it worse. Your own intelligence can end up building a much more complex, much more convincing trap for you to fall right into. It usually shows up in one of these three ways. First, there's complexity amplification. That's where your brain can see every single possible outcome, every obstacle, every edge case, until a simple task blows up into this huge, intimidating monster. Second, there's perfectionism as protection. You set the bar so impossibly high that, hey, of course you can't start. It could never be that good. And third, preemptive criticism. This is where you shoot down your own ideas before they even have a chance to breathe. This quote really gets to the heart of that perfectionism trap. Your amazing brain can conjure up this flawless, perfect version of what you want to create. But reality is messy, right? The first draft is never perfect. And that gap between the glorious vision in your head and the clumsy thing on the page feels so massive, so disappointing, that it's just easier to not even try.
And hey, if any of this is starting to sound familiar, just know you are in some seriously good company. The legendary writer Franz Kafka was tortured by this stuff. His personal diaries are just filled with these heartbreaking entries about his creative paralysis, just wrote nothing and absolute despair. This isn't some new age problem, it's a timeless struggle for gifted people.
So let's reframe this one more time because it is so important. Procrastination is not a bug in your system. It's actually a feature. It's this unconscious strategy that your brain is running to protect you from something it has flagged as an emotional danger. It's a misguided attempt to keep you safe.
And this usually breaks down into three common types. See which one of these feels familiar to you. First, you've got the perfectionist. Underneath it all, they're terrified of being judged, of not living up to those crazy high standards they set for themselves. Then there's the rebel. They hate the feeling of being controlled even by their own to-do list. They resist the shoulds. And finally, you have the overwhelmed type, who just sees the massive gap between the start and the finish line and just freezes.
Look, if you take away only one single thing from this whole explainer, please let it be this. It is never about the task, it's about the feeling. You're just trying to get away from that awful feeling that maybe, just maybe, you're not good enough to do it.
Okay, so we've done a lot of diagnosing the problem. We know what it is and why it happens. So what in the world do we do about it?
Well, the solutions have to work with our brain's emotional wiring, not just try to fight it with willpower.
And this is exactly why most of that productivity advice you hear just falls completely flat. Telling someone to just do it is like telling someone with a fear of heights to just go stand on the roof. It totally ignores the real, deep-seated emotional resistance. Timers and apps don't do anything to address the fear that's causing you to freeze up in the first place.
So here's a strategy that actually works with your brain. The idea is to make the first step so incredibly, ridiculously small that your brain's alarm system doesn't even go off. Your goal isn't write the whole report. It's not even write one sentence. Your goal is open the document and type today's date. That's it. It's an action so tiny it feels absurd not to do it. And that gets you over that initial wall of paralysis.
Here's another really powerful technique. You have to build a firewall in your mind between two different modes of work. You have your thinking time. This is where you get to plan and analyze and criticize and worry all you want. But then you switch to doing time. And when you're in doing time, analysis is forbidden. You are only there to execute the plan. This stops that inner critic from sabotaging you while you're trying to get that first draft down.
Let this become your new mantra. Seriously, a flawed, messy first draft that actually exists is infinitely more useful than the stunning masterpiece that only lives in your head. Why? Because you can always edit something that's bad. You can fix it. You can't do a single thing with an idea that's stuck in your imagination.
So we're going to end with this question. The next time you feel that urge to delay, instead of beating yourself up and asking, ugh, why am I being so lazy? Try asking a different question. What is this feeling trying to protect me from? Treat your procrastination like a messenger, not an enemy. If you can figure out the fear that it's pointing to, that's when you can finally solve the real problem and get back to doing your best work.